What's up, guys? Today we're going to be talking about Maka versus Ruby. So as many may know, Maka versus Ruby is an upcoming death battle that will be taking place in a month or so. We don't know exactly when, what day, we don't know the date, but we know that it's taking place soon. So I thought I'd make a video about who I think is going to win and why. In order to do this video, I'm going to separate, this into like a few categories. Number 1 will be speed, number 2 will be strength, number 3 will be hacks, number 4 will be durability, number 5 will be attack potency, number 6 will be combat, and number 7 will be IQ. Without further ado, let's get into it. So first category is speed. For this category, I went ahead and delved a little bit deeper into both the manga of Soul Eater and the anime of Soul Eater. In the anime, Maka can reach speeds of hypersonic plus, and in the manga, it's heavily believed that Maka has reached speeds of FTL, aka faster than light plus. She's often compared to Black Star, who literally caught light and threw it back. So that helps, in her case, in her situation. But then she also goes up against very fast foes that can, I'm pretty sure can reach speeds of light. Either way, the slowest she would be is hypersonic plus. That's Maka. For Ruby, we have her around bullet speed at best. It's kind of hard to calculate her speed, but in most instances, we believe she's about bullet speed. So in this situation, Maka would still be a few thousand times faster than her at the greatest. At her slowest, Maka would still be like at least 100 times faster than Ruby, considering that she at slowest is hypersonic plus. Now, y'all may be shocked, but in terms of strength, Ruby actually has the edge on Maka. One of Ruby's earliest feats in terms of like strength, there's a scene of Ruby taking a Nevermore by the neck and dragging it up this big like hill thing, mountain, whatever you want to call it, and then slicing its neck off. While simultaneously doing this, she's holding it up with her scythe, holding the Nevermore, and continuing to drag it along with her up a mountain. So it's heavily believed that Nevermores compared to Architrix, I don't know how to say it, but it's these extinct race of birds that existed thousands, hundreds of years ago. And in that case, they would weigh about 638,000 kilograms, which is 642.248 tons of weight. So that's Ruby for you. Now let's get into Maka. It actually has not been determined how much Maka can lift, as we don't really see her lifting much. We see her lifting Soul, who's about maybe like 100 pounds. With this being said, it's kind of hard to determine how strong Maka would be in terms of lifting strength, which is what I was going off of. A lot of people like to compare it to Black Star. Me personally, I think even if you do compare it to Black Star, she still wouldn't be anywhere near as strong as him, especially since she hasn't shown much strength feats in terms of physical strength. That being said, I'd give this category to Ruby. Now onto my personal favorite category. This one was very fun to, figure out who takes it. The next category would be hacks. Many people may or may not know, Ruby's best hacks would probably be either Silver Eyes or Aura. Silver Eyes is basically kind of like, use it on a Grim, and she can, turn it to stone. She can pulverize it, she can vaporize it, turn it to dust. It's basically just the ultimate weapon against a Grim, which is the main force of evil in this situation. It's also believed that it can work on maidens. Silver Eyes really only works on Grim, so that limits her, but against a Grim, it's very powerful, very useful, very powerful, very dangerous. So in terms of hacks for Maka, I would say her greatest hacks would be the anti-demon wavelength. So despite its name, this attack actually works on basically any form of negative energy. It can just push it away, you know, directly damage it. It can also force intangible forces into the physical plane in most cases, which then allows for them to be attacked. All in all, considering the fact that Ruby's, you know, Silver Eyes can really only work on Grim, and probably wouldn't work on Maka since she's not a Grim, and you know, Maka's ability could work on pretty much anybody that has negative energy within them, which would be most likely to come off of Ruby during this battle. She would probably have negative thoughts, negative energy, aggressive energy. I'm gonna have to give this to Maka, considering that Maka's has a better chance of working on Ruby than Ruby's has a chance of working on Maka's. Now, in terms of durability, this is where we're gonna get into aura. Ruby's aura has, you know, the most I can really say that we can confirm it has taken is like 30 tons. You know, it's also used, I think it's either her semblance or her aura to heal herself. Get into the healing part of this more, because that's what's going to play a big factor in who takes this category. Maka has resisted, you know, heavy attacks. You know, she's very durable physically, but then once we get into the healing aspect of it, Maka has healed from, you know, holes in her chest. She's healed from being stabbed in the head. Like, she's healed from way more. In this situation, it's kind of like not even anywhere close. Maka's healing is going to be way too much for Ruby to overwhelm. Not to mention, an aura can get overwhelmed, I wouldn't say easily, but semi-easily. Ruby's aura is gonna run out and she's not gonna be able to heal herself, and she's definitely not gonna be able to withstand attacks anymore. But Maka's healing will still be there, especially with, you know, black blood. So I'm gonna have to give this to Maka. Okay, now for attack potency, we're going to go into two different categories. We're gonna go into physical, and then we're gonna go into kind of like metaphysical. While Maka has, you know, in the past been able to break lunar rock, which would take about 3,000 tons of force, Ruby would not take that, you know, section of this category. But then we get into metaphysical. As I've mentioned before, Ruby has, you know, her hack Silver Eyes, which I would consider her best chance at attack potency. But even then, that really only works on Grim, as I've said before, and it kind of attacks you more physically than anything. But then Maka has the Kishin Hunter, something that was able to defeat Kishin. Not to mention the Kishin Hunter can, you know, not only cut through a person's physical manifestation, but can also cut through their soul. So that, to me, has greater attack potency than Silver Eyes. Even if Silver Eyes could work on anybody, it's more physical than anything. But Maka can break through the physical barrier and get down to somebody's soul, attacking them deeper, you know, on a deeper level and on a more effective level, if you will. So I'd say Maka takes this. In terms of combat, most of the foes Ruby has gone up against, she's put up a very good fight against, you know what I'm saying? She's also went up against some pretty dangerous Grim, but the fact that Maka can be compared to Black Star, she takes this easily. Not to mention, Maka has also gone up against, you know, stronger foes and came out on top. Ruby has gone up against weaker foes and still lost. Weaker foes than Kishin, which is, you know, the strongest foe Maka has defeated. Maka takes this category, no doubt. Now, in terms of IQ, this one was pretty simple, pretty easy. Straight to the point, you know, Maka is one of the top in her class in terms of IQ, and Ruby is more of a strategist, not really taking much in that category. When it comes to, you know, battle IQ, Maka low-key also takes that. To me, usually, you know, Maka's battle plans work out a little bit better than Ruby's, which tells me her combat IQ is a little bit better. Also, Maka has, you know, gotten herself out of some tougher situations than Ruby. So overall, I would give both levels of IQ to Maka. Now that was the final category, but I do just kind of want to touch on why I really do feel like Maka wins. And yes, Maka does win in my opinion, but I was rooting for Ruby while making this video. I was really hoping I could find something to give Ruby. For a second there, I was like, you know, maybe Silver Eyes could get her. Silver Eyes seemed to work on a more powerful level than like Anti-Demon Wavelength. But then once I read into it, I was like, Anti-Demon Wavelength can work on basically anybody. And like I've said numerous times, Silver Eyes is limited to working on Grims and those with maiden abilities, neither of which Maka possesses. It also doesn't help the situation a whole lot that, you know, it's arguable that Maka could literally just turn off the Ruby universe's power system, which would be Ruby's power system, you know, her greatest ability outside of Silver Eyes that would, you know, maybe catch her a win, which would be her aura. Maka can turn that off considering the fact that aura is directly tied to the soul. Are we forgetting what the name of Maka's show is? Soul Eater. You know, she can quite literally manipulate people's soul. She can also, I'm pretty sure she can shut down people's soul. Either way, she can manipulate people's soul, and that is what's going to guarantee her her win. If the healing factor, the speed, and everything else did not. The only thing she didn't take was strength, but Ruby just isn't physically strong enough to crack her this win. She doesn't take any other category. In the end, Maka stumps. Maka took 6 out of 7 categories, but even then, she was gonna stump anyway. It's not really a fair fight considering the fact that Soul Eater is finished and Ruby is still airing to this day. Like, Ruby is still ongoing. So Ruby Rose herself has not reached the height of her power that Maka has been able to reach. You know, she hasn't had the same opportunity. She also hasn't had, you know, any of that. So in this situation, I would definitely say Maka wins. Mid diff if we just completely highball Ruby, and low ball Maka. Low diff if we just keep it realistic, and then if we just keep it super duper realistic, I would honestly say near no diff. There's just nothing Ruby can do to damage her, and there's much less Ruby can do to defend against Maka's damage. That's the end of this video. Let me know what you guys want me to debunk next, and have an amazing day. See you next time.